Take a close look at this $1 plastic jug perched on a windowsill. Something inside is thriving, bubbling, respiring, silently releasing breath. Just 12 inches over, a plant is sprouting almost twice as fast as its twin across the room. No fertilizers, no special lamps, no pricey additives, only the jug, sugar, a baker's yeast packet, and aquarium tubing. That's all. Now consider the question the gardening business hopes you never pose. What if your plant's sluggish growth isn't about soil, water, or sunlight? What if it's that unseen gas they're desperately craving right this instant? Countless gardeners drop hundreds on underground fixes, nitrogen mixes, phosphorus enhancers, pH testers, without ever glancing skyward or pondering the atmosphere. That's the overlooked gap a $47 billion sector has exploited silently for 5 decades. What follows isn't some garden hack. It's plant biology, long kept under wraps, deployed in commercial greenhouses since the 1970s, while they've passed the costs to you. Stick around. The research here will transform your view of every plant you've nurtured. Let's examine who gains from your ignorance. The worldwide controlled environment agriculture sector, peddling CO2 enrichment gear to pro-greenhouses, hit $4.8 billion in 2023 per Grandview Research, eyeing $9.7 billion by 2030. At its core, one basic item: pressurized CO2 gas in industrial tanks, piped straight into large-scale grow-ops to boost growth. A mid-sized commercial greenhouse CO2 setup runs $1,500 to $8,000 initially, with monthly tank refills at $200 to $600. The proof that CO2 speeds up plant development. It's ancient, undisputed, in peer-reviewed papers since the 1960s. The USDA noted 20% to 30% yield jumps in enriched setups back in 1979. No academic cover-up, just practical exclusion from home gardeners, balcony hobbyists, and small farmers who will never buy a $6,000 tank rig, so the industry deems them unworthy of the info. Ponder this stat. A month's worth of baker's yeast and sugar for a DIY CO2 generator, about $2. The equivalent from commercial tanks, $200 to $400. That's a 10,000% premium on a process your great-great-grandmother could have cracked in hours. The $4.8 billion machine doesn't hawk CO2 outright. It peddles the myth that enrichment is too intricate, too factory-grade, too elite for home use. And that's the priciest illusion you've purchased. Yet the tale stretches back further and odder than most imagine. No corporation unearthed plants' CO2 link. A French chemist, Jean Senabier, proved it in 1782 via precise tests, showing plants take in fixed air, today's carbon dioxide, as fuel to craft their tissues. Over 240 years old, predating the U.S. Constitution. By the late 1800s, European botanists ran elevated CO2 greenhouse trials, logging faster growth in tomatoes, cucumbers, and greens. Results filled German and Dutch farm journals from the 1890s into the early 1900s. No secrecy, just no push to simplify for small-timers. $0 in easy fixes. True quieting hit in the 1970s. As Dutch and Japanese greenhouse ops boomed, they found 1,000 to 1,500 parts per million CO2, 3 to 4 times ambient 400 parts per million, delivered 25% to 40% yield gains in quick crops. The Dutch horticulture scene, gripping 65% of Europe's greenhouse veggie exports by 1980 per Wageningen University records, wove CO2 boosting into its core systems. A trade insider's edge in plain view in industry mags off the public's radar. What stayed out of everyday gardening? The natural workaround, fermentation, that a simple living thing like yeast generates the identical CO2 molecule as those $8,000 commercial setups at virtually no cost, just with sugar and lukewarm water. The divide between industry insiders' knowledge and the advice given to everyday gardeners wasn't random. To grasp why this method succeeds, set aside all the plant-feeding lessons from the gardening business and focus on one key truth that fertilizer ads rarely acknowledge. Roughly 96% of a plant's dry weight originates from the atmosphere, not the ground. Gaze at a tomato plant, its stems, foliage, fruits, every bit of its structure, and realize the carbon framework in all those cells was drawn straight from airborne CO2. Minerals come from soil, sure, hydrogen and oxygen from water, but the core substance of life, carbon, derives from the CO2, drifting unseen around your plant at this moment. Known as carbon fixation, this occurs within each leaf via the Calvin cycle, a pathway discovered by Melvin Calvin at UC Berkeley in 1950, a breakthrough that won him the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1961. Put simply, the plant seizes CO2 through microscopic leaf openings called stomata, merges that carbon with water using solar energy, and transforms it into glucose, the sugar powering everything from root growth to fruit formation. Without CO2 coming in, no glucose gets made. It's that straightforward and essential. Yet your indoor setup is quietly starving it. Typical outdoor CO2 sits at about 420 parts per million in 2024, per NOAA's Global Monitoring Lab. Plenty, it seems, until you factor in enclosed areas. A plant tucked in a nook against a wall in a grow tent or a stuffy room depletes nearby CO2 quicker than fresh air can replace it. Research in the Journal of Experimental Botany reveals levels in such spots plunging to 200 parts per million during high sunlight periods, precisely when photosynthesis ramps up hardest. At 200 parts per million, efficiency falls by around 50% versus 800 parts per million. Your plant isn't ill or lacking nutrients. It's CO2-starved invisibly, and root fertilizers can't make up for missing aerial carbon. Science leaves no doubt about fixes. A 2004 new phytologist meta-analysis of 159 studies on CO2 boosting across crops showed 700 to 1,000 parts per million levels, yielding 17% more biomass in woody species and up to 28% in quick-growing veggies. A 2017 Wageningen University study on modest CO2 addition for tomatoes saw 23% higher fruit yields without extra water, nutrients, or lighting. That's 23% more harvest from identical pots, soil, and plants, just by tweaking the air over the leaves. This is the factor your greenery craves, and the $4.8 billion CO2 sector has no incentive to cheapen for home use. Biology ignores profits, though, and a baker's yeast packet is primed to tap it. The science turns elegant here. Baker's yeast, that ubiquitous grocery staple under 50 cents per pack, domesticated by humans for 5,000 years, per digs at ancient Egyptian breweries, releases CO2 as a metabolic byproduct. In warm water with sugar, it triggers anaerobic fermentation, splitting each glucose into 2 ethanol molecules and 2 CO2s. The process runs steadily while sugar lasts, leaving no harmful waste or sludge a plant can't tolerate. The CO2 from yeast bubbling in your jug matches industrial $6,000 canister CO. Too perfectly, same atoms, same bonds. No elite version exists. Agricultural grade. CO2 doesn't outperform yeast-made. Plants can't distinguish them. And the release method? Physics steps in to help. CO2 weighs about 44 grams per mole, while typical air clocks in at 29 grams per mole. That makes it around 1.5 times denser than the surrounding atmosphere. So when the gas flows out from the tube hovering over your plant's canopy, it doesn't just float up and scatter like something lighter. Instead, it drops. It drifts down into the foliage, much like water cascading over a surface, settling softly around the stomata. Those tiny openings on leaf undersides hungrily seeking CO2 to pull in. You're not blasting the plant with gas. You're saturating its local surroundings with a steady, heavy, unseen stream of precisely what it craves, right at the spots where absorption occurs. In a calm, still air setup, this hands-off method delivers results on par with pricey active injection setups that run hundreds of times the cost. But here's where we need to level with each other. This approach isn't perfect, and anyone claiming it probably has something to sell. A basic yeast setup using everyday bread yeast and table sugar generates roughly 100 to 200 milliliters of CO2 per hour at peak fermentation, as confirmed in homebrewing resources and by independent horticultural tests. That's enough to boost levels noticeably in a compact, enclosed, or partially sealed area of 10 to 20 cubic feet for one plant or a small group. It won't overhaul a big open room. It can't stand in for ventilation in a large grow tent unless you run several units at once, expecting factory-level output from a $2 rig in a massive space. You'll be let down. What it nails every time, without fail and for pennies, is saving a CO2-deprived plant in a snug spot, like a corner, a narrow balcony, a windowsill shelf, or anywhere stagnant air is silently throttling photosynthesis. For that exact issue, which plagues most home growers unaware. This $2 bioreactor isn't a workaround. It's the sharpest fix you can get, no matter the budget. Now, building it couldn't be easier. You'll need just 5 items. A 1-gallon plastic jug with a screw-top lid, like those for water or juice, grabbed from any grocery or your recycle bin. About 3 to 4 feet of flexible plastic tubing, the cheap aquarium airline kind under $2 for a 10-foot roll at pet stores. A bit of waterproof sealant or aquarium-safe silicone, $3 and good for ages. 1 cup of plain, granulated white sugar, plus a standard 7-gram packet of active dry baker's yeast, found everywhere for about 50 cents. Assembly: less than 10 minutes. Punch a hole in the lid with a nail, drill bit, or hot skewer, sized to grip the tubing snugly. Feed about 2 inches of tube through from outside so a short stub dangles inside and the rest stretches out. Caulk around it on both lid sides with sealant, ensuring 0 leaks for gas. That's the one crucial detail. If CO2 escapes the lid instead of the tube, you lose the targeted flow. Let it set completely, usually 2 to 4 hours per the label. With the lid prepped, dump in the sugar. Pour in 3 cups of warm water, warm like bath water, not scalding or chilly, ideally 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The sweet spot for Saccharomyces cerevisiae, baker's yeast, maxing out metabolism per fermentation studies. Toss in the yeast. Swirl lightly till sugar dissolves, no vigorous mixing. Screw on the lid tight. In 30 to 60 minutes, bubbles will start streaming through the tube. Fresh CO2, all for under $2 total. Reactive. Now, placement. Set the jug level with or a tad higher than your plant, aiming the tube's open end 2 to 3 inches above the canopy, angled down. Keep it clear of leaves. Let the CO2 pour over from above, gravity guiding it through the structure like a gentle cascade. For a cluster of plants, center the tube and allow the gas to spread naturally outward and down. In a calm, still air setup, this passive CO2 dispersal reaches an impressively broad area. The reactor generates CO2 steadily for 5 to 7 days until the sugar runs out and fermentation tapers off. You'll recognize reload time when the bubbling in the tube slows to a trickle or ceases completely. Just dump out the jug, give it a quick rinse, and kick off a new batch. Keeping one reactor going all month runs about $1.80 total for sugar and yeast. Gardeners sharing results on various forums and small grower groups note clear improvements in fresh leaf growth after just 7 to 10 days, including thicker stems and quicker node intervals on crops such as tomatoes, peppers, basil, and lettuce. Exactly the rapid growers highlighted in the 2004 New Phytologist meta-analysis as prime candidates for CO2 boosting. You're no longer just feeding a $9.7 billion machine. You're a savvy cultivator who's cracked open the hidden side of farming that Big Ag buried for decades. Put that knowledge to work. If this flips your view of your windowsill setup, spread the word. Share this video, not for our view count, but so every viewer becomes another grower ditching useless buys for real solutions. That's no mere sub. It's subtle rebellion against a $4.8 billion empire, thriving on what you didn't know. Each share chips away at their fortress. Want more? The CO2 setup is just the start of the unseen garden. Up next, the soil's microbial web that fertilizer giants have wrecked for 60 years, and the cheap kitchen staple that restores it in under 2 weeks for pennies under $3. The subsurface secrets get weirder, wilder, and way more practical than today's revelations. Don't skip it.